Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Counterpoint here all along the Armstrong Network. My name is Cornel Bogdan, but even more important, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Norman Nardini.
Dearly beloved, we're gathered together here in Youngstown, Ohio. The High Priest, Church of Rock and Roll, east side of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, touching you up. We're going to lick them up here today. We're going to have some type of din-din. Lick them up, lick them up. Mr. Cornel Bogdan went in the kitchen, got a black frying pan, put in some lard, cooked up some type of cornbread. Nene making cornbread, she frying in the pan. Every time she serve it up, somebody wind up in a can. All my neighbors and family say they wanna lick it up. Nene making cornbread, she don't ever make enough. Nene making cornbread, Ray dropping by, smelling like cigarettes, French fries. Ray said that cornbread, that's the mostest thing he loved. Nene making cornbread, she don't ever make enough. Nene making cornbread, Lucy gonna stop with a jar of the shine and a liter of pop. Lucy says she hungry and it's gonna get rough. Nene making cornbread, but she didn't make enough. She don't make enough. She don't ever make enough. How? Cornbread, you can smell it in the kitchen. Cornbread, folks are finger licking. Cornbread, sure enough, delicious. Nene made cornbread, Ray took a bite. Lucy slapped stupid, then they began to fight. Then Lucy shot Ray cause he wouldn't share the stuff. Nene made the cornbread, but she didn't make enough. Nene made the cornbread, that's what they told the cops. Judge said Nene guilty, just let Lucy walk. Said cornbread so good it's a crime you can't starve. Nene made the cornbread, but she didn't make enough. Now Nene made cornbread at the penitentiary, Ray in the ground, and Lucy walking free. And the warden tell the guards to watch the cronies at lunch, cause Nene made a cornbread, and she don't ever make enough. She don't make enough. She don't ever make enough. Ho! Cornbread, you can smell it in the kitchen. Cornbread, folks are finger licking. Cornbread, sure enough, delicious. Hey! Woo! Hey! Woo! Sure enough delicious. Sure enough delicious. Sure enough delicious. Sure enough alright. Sure enough delicious. Sure enough. Sure enough. Sure enough delicious. Sure enough delicious. Cornbread, well,
Are you okay?
how you doing?
Sit, my brother. You know, what I'm hoping for, Norman, is during today's show, you'll come out of your shell.
You could make me do that, I think.
I love Larry, man.
How about Larry Seifers,
Introduce
ladies and
Larry real
gentlemen?
quick.
Mr. Larry Seifers, we've been playing together since the 1970s on and off. He's beautiful. He only brought his piano today, but he's a wonderful, very soulful, meaty, delicious saxophone blower, tenor sax. Plays some great blues harp. He got this damn flute that he brings around, but you know, we don't say nothing, but what are you gonna do? Other than that, he's kind of perfect.
Yeah. Larry, thank you for being here. Norman, welcome.
Always. I miss you.
Let's see, 1979 we first met?
79.
Yeah, 1979 we first met, and one thing about Norman Nardini and the Pittsburgh tradition of his brand of music, I don't like to call it rock and roll, I don't like to call it country, I don't like to call it rockabilly, I don't like to call it blues, because he has this combination of music, ladies and gentlemen, that is second to none. I'm saying this because he's my bud, but also he is a musician's musician. You're probably one of the only guys that I know, regional star, who you don't have a real job.
No, it never worked.
You've never had a day job.
Well, when I went to music school, I had to wash dishes until I got enough money to buy an amp.
Okay, and how old were you?
19, I was probably 20.
Okay, so 20 years old was the last time you actually had a day job.
Pretty much. Yeah,
Giddy
it never
up,
worked.
man. Giddy
when
up.
I got out of college, I started playing in lounge bands, and I couldn't handle that. I wasn't built for that. Then I started working at the studio, like as a janitor, and then I started doing productions and writing lead sheets and playing different instruments on novelty records, and then we started producing product. And from that time on, that was 1975. I was in the Diamonds. I was playing bass for Diamond Rio. And we started touring around, with the major bands of that time, the Kisses and Nugents and Blue Oyster Cults and Kansas and all them acts.
Wow.
We were playing with them starting in 1975 when I started being Norman in 79.
Okay, so 75 you were in Diamond Rio.
Yep.
That went on till 1979, and then that's when you put together Norman Nardini and the Tigers?
Yep.
Or was it just Norman by himself?
No, it was actually, at first it was Norman Nardini and the East Side Tigers.
Okay.
Was the original name of the band. And Warren King was still playing with me at that time. But he was in the Silencers, which was a real high-level Pittsburgh band, with Frank Zori. Warren and Frank were with me in the Diamonds, and I left the Diamonds to do my thing, and they became the Silencers.
Let's go back to that 70s, mid-70s, and all the way through the early 80s. Just mention some of the people that you have opened for, played with. You mentioned Kiss, Ted Nugent.
Well, the cool thing about Kiss was that we played, when I was in the Diamonds, we opened for Kiss when they cut the Kiss Alive album.
Okay.
And that was at Cobo Hall in Detroit City. And we stayed in the same hotel as Kiss did. And I thought I had a lot of experiences in my life with that. I thought I knew a lot about life.
Yeah, forget about it.
But that night, opening, it's like I've seen stuff that to this day I'm like, man, I've done some living. But yeah, we did with Kiss, and it's crazy. I've told you before that actually in the early 70s, I played guitar for Big Mama Thornton for a week up in Boston.
See, this is one of my favorite stories, ladies and gentlemen. You know what kind of blues fan I am, and I make Norman tell me this story all the time. You were going to school in Boston.
I was going to Berklee School of Music, and I was with a little girl. We went to see Big Mama Thornton like on Monday night, and she was going to be there Monday through Saturday.
And Big Mama Thornton, if you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, look it up. Look it up. Important part of your music history lesson. Yep. Lady wrote and sang Hound Dog before Elvis ever got a hold of it.
Yes.
But anyway, so she's performing in Boston. You're young and impressionable. You're walking around with your girl, and what happens?
Well, she didn't have a guitar player. And she had George Harmonica Smith playing harp, who I had, because I was a blues fan as a kid. So I knew what was going on there was significant, and I knew I was not worthy. But I went up to her and I said, I see you don't have a guitar player. I play guitar, man. I'd love to play with you guys.
Do you realize how cocky that was to do that?
I didn't even think of it. I mean, I knew I was out of my league. And there was no question I didn't deserve to be on stage with those folks. She had this bass player, too. I think he was half black and half Indian. He played a Telecaster bass. I don't know what his name was. But I remember him to this day as being the band leader and just being killer. I'd love to know who he was, And, but yes, she said, come to the hotel the next day for rehearsal. And I didn't think, these people don't rehearse. She was jerking me around. So I showed up at the hotel, no one was there. So I went back to the gig on Tuesday night and says, I went to the hotel to come to rehearsal.
Yeah.
And she says, hey, whatever, man. Hey, man. I says, well, I'd love to play with you guys. She says, set your stuff up. She says, if you can play, you can play. If you can't, I'll throw you off the stage. And she just let me play.
That was your audition?
I just played for the week.
You just played?
Yeah, I just joined the band for the week. And
See, I didn't know that.
She didn't throw me off the
part
stage.
of it.
Yeah, she didn't throw me off the stage, so I was in. But the crazy thing is, I wouldn't go in the dressing room with them because I was afraid. You know, it's just this little guy. She called me Hound Dog Guru. I had real long hair, and I was real pretty at the time. But I opened the door to the dressing room. When I pushed the door open, I hit her in the back, and she had a little flask of whiskey, or like vodka. And it went all over her face, and she looked back and saw me, and I just turned around and kind of ran away.
Yeah. And now back in the day, most of those performers, they used to play at least 2 gigs a night. So were you playing an early show or a later show, or was this 1 show a night?
Well, we'd play like 3 sets.
3 sets, okay.
Yeah, 3, and it was at the Jazz Workshop, which was in the same building and just down the hall from another club called Paul's Mall. So in this Jazz Workshop, I saw Muddy Waters up from here, maybe 3 feet over. That's how far I was from him. His whole set, he had Lafayette Lake on piano. I seen Miles Davis when Bitches Brew come out. And I like, once again, just a couple of feet away from him. I mean, I seen Kenny Burrell.
Norman,
in that room.
How many times have I said to you over the years, when are you going to write a book?
Well, you know, people keep talking about it.
And you've heard that before, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. And you know what? I'm getting into writing.
Your mind is incredible, what you remember, what you can recollect.
I've done some living.
Yeah.
I've done some living. And I'm starting to learn how to write. You know, as I develop my songwriting skills, I'm starting to feel like I'm becoming the type of songwriter that I always wished I could but never thought I could. And so that's making me believe I can do other things. And maybe I could write a book that would be interesting. And I'd like to talk about my family, you know, my parents, how cool they were, you know, first generation Italians, and tell their story a little bit, and talk about a lot of the musicians I worked. You know, Warren King was a guy I played with when we were young who was I remember we were playing in Texas, and this was 1976, I think, and Ted Nugent, we were opening for him, and he had this guy named Bugsy something. He played with a big band, and he just got out of jail. And him and Ted were on stage having a guitar battle, because Ted used to like to do that. He'd rig him so he won every one. But when they were doing it, Warren, who was so massive, he took a little Fender, they were playing through all their giant amps, he took a little Fender concert out on stage and just started playing while they were playing, uninvited. And the whole attention of the room went to Warren.
Wow.
Because he had so much steam and so much heat in his playing. And the other guys, you know, they played well. You know, like when he played, there was this fire and this intensity that you couldn't step away from it. And Warren was just, the whole room was focusing on him. And he was like a beautiful little sunflower up there. And Ted had his guy says, get him off the stage.
Move him on.
Yeah, he got him up. They came in and said, dude, like the hook, you know.
That's enough of that.
And we were like, Fish, you're so cool. Dude, you're our hero. But I mean, I seen it happen. It was just so much fun to be a part of.
Well, where I first met Norman was with his band, Norman Nardini and the Tigers. When you're on this show, unfortunately, Norm, it's low budget. Everybody who has been on here, we make them play. You know, it doesn't matter what kind of awards you have won, you got to work, okay? So I'm going to make you go back to the days of Norman Nardini and the Tigers, and if you would, if you'd be so kind and grace us with a tune called Burning Up.
Just for you. Wrote this with Warren King. Got a drink in my hand, waiting for my man. I'm burning up, burning up. And there's some chick at the bar, I think she wants to scar. And I'm burning up, burning up. Then my band gets in the groove. Got to bust a move, do my stuff. Bop, 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 bop. And I've been feeling like a bitch, 'cause I ain't struck it rich. I'm burning up. I'm burning up. I'm burning up. I started a fire. Burning up. I'm burning up. Gotta bust a move tonight. Burning up. I'm burning up. I'm burning up. Burning up. I'm burning up. All this heavy poverty, insecurities, I'm burning up. And after what they've done to me, I'm down here on my knees, I'm burning up. And I keep making up these songs. You could sing along. I'm burning up. Burning. And I've been doing it for years. Before you all was here. I'm burning up. What? I'm burning up. I'm burning. I'm burning. I started a fight. Burning up. I'm burning. I'm burning. Gotta get on tonight. Burning up. I'm burning. I'm burning. I'm burning up. I'm burning up. I'm burning. I'm burning up. Hit me.
That was 1978.
Written.
And first time you recorded it?
78. I cut a rhythm track. I was still in the Diamonds when I cut the rhythm track. And actually, when we wrote it, Warren and I wrote it together, it had different words. And the singer in the Diamonds didn't like the song. It was called All Around the World.
Oh.
Like the Willie John song.
Okay.
Same title, but not the same song. And
he didn't want to sing it.
He wouldn't sing it. And I'd call it on stage, because I would call the tunes. And I'd call it, and he'd go, I ain't singing that, I ain't singing that. It's called something else. And so finally one night I called, he said, I ain't singing that. I says, hey, do you mind if I sing it? And I had written the new words to Burning Up, to that track. And I sang it, and it's the first time I sung it. Meanwhile, the singer, this guy was Frank Zora. He's a great singer, still around today, fantastic. People loved it when I sang it. And that's when I started thinking, you know what, maybe I could
do this thing.
It might be time for me to
bring
it to the people. Step up, be somebody.
Well, I'm sitting in a nightclub one night, and I'm watching MTV back when they actually played videos before 16 and Pregnant and all of those other things. They actually played videos, and they broke artists, and it was exciting.
It was a great time.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm watching videos, and all of a sudden music was coming to life, and I look up, and I see my buddy Norman Nardini on MTV.
Little Big Mouth.
And not only did you have a video playing, but you would host You were like one of the guest VJs?
Well, they let me do a little thing, yeah. They let me do a thing.
And what song? Tell everybody.
At the time, we had a record out. It was called If You Don't Want Me, Somebody Will.
Right.
And we did a wonderful video, black and white video of it. And my father was in that video. And to this day, that's what I remember most about the video. There were some beautiful, young ladies.
You can see it on YouTube. Go ahead.
But the thing I remember about it, the guy that played the bartender in the bar scene that where we filmed it was my father. And I think of that to this day. And I just think about how cool it was that I could have him there for that,
What label were you on?
I was on a label called CBS Associated, which was Columbia.
Right.
Epic. But it was the Epic side of Columbia. And Tony Martell ran the label. And I did 2 albums for CBS. And after I did my second album, he says, we're going to have to let you go. You haven't made enough juice happen. And I says to him, is there anything I could do to stick around for one more record? He says, I have an idea. He said, if you could get this lady to manage you, I'd give you a deal for another record. And I said, who's the lady? He said, Sharon Osbourne. Because at the time, she had just come over from England.
Right.
And she had revived Ozzy.
Yeah, and she was also signing a whole bunch of artists.
And they knew that she was going to have success.
Right.
Tony knew. And he said, if you can get her into you, I'll give you another record deal. And I couldn't get her interested in me.
But the video played on MTV for quite a while. I remember it was on medium rotation.
Yeah.
And then they asked you to come in and do some in-studio stuff. Did that open up any other doors for you? Although you lost the deal with CBS.
I wish I could have made more things happen at that point in my life, but I totally I didn't make the right decisions business-wise with my associations, with who I got involved with, and I'm not trying to knock anybody that I was involved with. Mm-hmm. Because I don't feel that way. I just feel like there's some things I didn't do that I should have done, that I was always gigging. Mm-hmm. And I was always working and writing and being a wild knucklehead. And so I blame the fact that I didn't make more things happen for myself. Oh, you know what? I did the Joy Behar show.
Okay.
And she had her own TV show in New York
Yeah,
at the time.
I remember that.
And we did, I don't know if we did that song on there. But, oh no, we did Love Dog. That was the next record on CBS. But when I was on there, I had the Love Dog song come out, and I was eating dog biscuits as part of the promotion because my song was Love Dog.
And what did Joy do?
And I pulled a dog biscuit out of my pocket and started eating it and handed it to her.
Yeah.
And she didn't think that was very...
That's not cool.
She didn't think it was... Yeah. She didn't think that was funny.
See, on this show, you pull out a dog biscuit,
right, you'll
no
take
problem.
a bite.
No problem, man. Me and Greg, we'll join you over here, man.
I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm half man, half dog, half monkey, and half mule.
Really? And how'd those halves all put together?
You might think that's a lot of halves.
Yeah.
But it really isn't. It's more a lot of man than a lot of halves.
I like it.
How you doing?
I like that a lot.
All you flatlanders out here in Ohio, I want to touch you in a most manful way.
If there was a time, seriously, Norman, you were born to be a showman. When did you know it? Like, when did it hit you? 5, 6 years ago, where you're performing in front of your family? Because there's no stopping you, man.
There isn't. And
when did you feel that light hit you and say, yeah?
I always knew I was different because my parents knew I was
different? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
But my parents knew I was different, and especially my mother, and she would always try and calm me down and trying to get me to blend in and be a normal person. And she wanted so much for me to be right, and normal, and I just couldn't. But one thing I learned in life, and I think it's good if there's any young people watching today, as I've grown older and worked at my craft, I've learned that one of the reasons I couldn't accomplish more as when I was younger was that I didn't have the confidence, and I didn't see myself as clearly as I could have. And as I've kept working and working, even at this age now, I keep opening doors to things that I can accomplish and things that I could do that I never thought I could as a young person. So I don't know when it hit me. I always knew I was a ham bone. Mm-hmm. You could ask, Larry might know. Because Larry met me when we were just playing in lounge groups, you know, young guys in our 20s. And he always knew I was nuts.
The best thing about Larry is every time I look at him, he's got a smile on his face because he's thinking about, yeah, Norman ain't lying. Norman ain't lying. It's, you know,
yeah, that's pretty much.
You kind of know, don't you?
He's seen a lot of me. And the cool thing about Larry knew me before I had my first record out. You know, when we'd be playing these lounge band, I was going, we got to get original music. We got to do our own thing. We got to make our own music. We need to, you know, and everybody, I think including Larry, thought I was nuts. And even the guys in Pittsburgh, the guys that became the Diamonds, they thought I was crazy as I was trying to put that band together. I kind of like tricked all them guys into doing original music. And I couldn't even really write songs then. But I was just taking fragments of what they wrote. And
little magic tricks.
I was always just trying to, I didn't want to not do something magic. I didn't know where magic was. I didn't know I had magic in me. I really didn't think I had any magic in me at all at that point. And I'm 24, 25.
For those of you who remember the old Youngstown Agora, the Tomorrow Club in downtown Youngstown, me and Norman were reminiscing a little while ago. But there was a show that happened down there. And the headliner was a gentleman by the name of Donnie Iris and the Cruisers, who has been a part of this show and close personal friends with both myself and Norman for many years. The opening band was a band called Bon Jovi. And the lead singer, John Bon Jovi, came out on stage that night and he was wearing a Norman Nardini and the Tigers t-shirt. Right. You and John Bon Jovi are buds.
Still.
And how long has that relationship been going on?
That started in 1980, right? Like you know, about a year after I started being Norman, you know, not even a year, we went to New Jersey to open up a show at the Fast Lane for a local band called The Rest.
Okay.
They saw a picture of me in a magazine, and I was being real crazy, and they said, well, let's get this guy out here. We want to just see what he does. So they brought me out to open for those guys, and I had the Tigers at the time, and we did our sound check with the Tigers, and we had been on the road a lot. And we did our sound check. We just kind of sleptwalked through it, didn't really do much, you know. And Johnny and his band thought they were going to give us a beating.
Yeah.
But when the show came up, we come out firing because we
shifted a little bit of gears there.
And Johnny's 10 years younger than me.
Yeah.
So you know, he was still a kid, and I had already been working years. So we come out and just stole the show, and we tore that place up. And this is a great story. At the end of the gig, Johnny didn't even want to go on stage after he saw us. I remember he was sitting there, he was white. But at the end of the gig, him and his band, the rest were sitting there, and they had a couple chicks with them. And my guitar player, Paul Shook, real pretty Polak, handsome.
A pretty Polak, ladies and
blue
gentlemen.
eyes, big chesty shoulders back on him like a mule. And they had these two chicks sitting with him. And we're all standing on the stage gathering our gear up. And Shook, he had a couple of these in him. And he goes like this, hey, he says, I can't believe you girls are going home with them guys when you could come back to the hotel with us. And them two broads got up from sitting with them, walked over, both put their arms around Shook, and he walked them out the building. And Johnny was sitting there, he was going, I want to hang with you guys. Because we stole their chicks. You know, Shook did. And it was just like this, you know, a really fun time. You know, we were all young. We were all true rock and roll spirits.
Well, folks, if you get a chance, one of the finest websites for many years has been normannardini.com.
Yep.
And you'll see a quote on there from John Bon Jovi about Norman. Norman is also uses that thing called Facebook, and you're really into the social media. But the cool, you called me about 3 or 4 years ago, and you say, I get this phone call, and it's John Bon Jovi calling you from an airport. And basically, what did he say to you? You know, you did an opening gig for him in Pittsburgh.
Oh, that was, I think it was 2011.
Okay.
He just said, hey.
Calls you up out of the clear blue.
Yeah. You working? I says, yeah, I'm working. He says, you want to do this show with us? I says, where's it at? He says, right in town there, you know, where we worked there before, because I would always hang out with them there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had us open for him. I think it was 2011, and it was killer.
Yeah.
Really, really fun, you know.
That's what I love about you, Norman. The ultimate compliment, I think, is for a performer. It doesn't matter if you're in a room of 2 people or in a room of 20,000 people. You bring it.
I'm a ham bone.
You bring it, man. And going full circle here, ladies and gentlemen, and what he was saying a couple of minutes ago about you don't know when it's going to happen if you're in the business. There is a brand new album out from one of the finest blues bands in the world. They're called the Nighthawks. On this album, there is a song called 3 Times Your Fool. Who wrote that song, Norman?
The man from Handful.
Norman Nardini's 3 Times Your Fool is on the brand new Nighthawks record. Will you grace us again?
I'd love to sing it for you.
Okay.
And it's sung by the Nighthawks. Mr. Mark Stutzo sings it for the Hawks.
Right. But how about you?
Me?
Take it to another level.
I'm the wop with the bop, the guinea with the skinny, the guido and the speedo, the manful handful, little big mouth, the high priest from the Church of Rock and Roll on the east side of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 1, 2, 3. If I'm a fool for loving you, I've been a fool so long. And if it's true what they say about love, it just keeps on getting stronger. The first time you hurt me, I thought I would die. The second time I broke down and I cried. Third time you hurt me, I played it cool. I guess I'm 3 times your fool. And if I knew that you found another, baby, I just play along. I'd be blue. Lord knows that I suffer until you found your way back home. First time you hurt me, thought I would die. The second time I broke down and I cried. Third time you hurt me, I played it cool. I guess I'm 3 times your fool. Oh,
Oh, man. I have a little tear here in my eye. It might be a couple of them. Larry, nice job, man.
Mr. Larry Seifers.
Ladies and gentlemen, time goes by way, way too quick. Norman, thank you for being my friend for all these years, and I wish you nothing but the best. Folks, support Norman Nardini and his music. Find out where he's playing. He's playing all the time. Just go to normannardini.com. If there's a guy that does more gigs than you in the Pittsburgh area, I'd like to know who it is. Is there?
If there is,
Bring him.
I want to get in the ring with him.
Yeah, bring him. normannardini.com. Greg, thank you so much. Thanks, along Greg. The Armstrong Network, thank you guys for viewing this little thing we call Counterpoint, a musician's tale. Peace.